to celebrate National Ag Day. This is so exciting. I'm so grateful. I mean, you're going to get to hear from all these incredible people behind me. We've got another few on their way who aren't here just quite yet. But let's welcome our guests, Administrator Leffler, Secretary Kennedy, Administrator Zeldin, Dr. Oz. They're all going to be here with us at USDA to celebrate National Ag Day. Y'all welcome them really, really big. And this isn't in my remarks, but did I see some FFAers in the... Oh, stand up, please. Look at our future farmers of America. Let's go. Great to see y'all. And a very special surprise, my husband, Mark Rollins, joined down here on the end. Hello, Mark Rollins. He's actually in town for another meeting, but decided he didn't want to miss National Ag Day, so it's so great to have you. Listen, everyone, thank you all so much for being here. What an honor, what a blessing, what a joy it is to celebrate this National Ag Day. You all have some placards in your chairs. We're going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. We've got a big announcement today. We've got a video on cue for everyone to watch in just a few minutes, and then we're going to get to hear from so many of our great partners across the government and others out on the Hill and out in the countryside. So again, I want to thank everyone for coming today and for joining us for National. It is National Ag Day, but we also have a little celebration on Friday with the President of the United States. So agriculture is back at the center of policy making in Washington, D.C. How great is that? Day in and day out, our farmers feed and fuel and clothe our nation, and truly the entire world. You all have seen the numbers. We're down now to Americans that actually till the soil and grow the cattle and work the fields and pick the apples. We're down to about 2% of our population, but that 2% feeds all of our country and the rest of the world. We are indeed the world's breadbasket, and we should be so proud of that. And today, on this National Ag Day, it is even more appropriate to celebrate, as this is America's 250th birthday. Our job and mission at USDA is making sure that all of our farmers and all of our ranchers and all of our producers are able to continue to do what they do best by empowering them to preserving their way of life, to ensuring that our farmers and ranchers aren't just surviving, which has been unfortunately the modus operandi for a long time now, but moving into a new era, a golden age, if you will, of prosperity and of thriving. As we all know, under the last administration, the cost of doing business skyrocketed. The cost of inputs exploded, whether it was fuel at 33%, seeds at 19%, fertilizer up 48%, labor up 44%, interest expenses up 70% in those 4 years, while at a time not one new trade deal was struck. When we left in the first administration, we had an ag surplus of our goods being shipped around the world. When we came back, it was a $50 billion agricultural deficit. So we have been working really hard. And 1 year ago, in a couple weeks, I stood on this stage on day one of my tenure as the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, the greatest honor of my professional life. And we talked about the importance of finding those new deals, of opening those markets, of supporting all of our producers, of cutting the red tape, of making sure they could keep more of their own money through tax cuts, thank you, John Hoeven, of ensuring that we could protect our family farms from the death tax and giving them the opportunity, Tucker Brown, of being able to give to the 8th generation the next level of ranching, et cetera, et cetera. And we have so much work to do, we realize that, but we are so grateful and so thankful for what we've been able to achieve so far. My boss, the negotiator-in-chief, we now have 18 new trade deals. And y'all, I think that deserves a big round of applause. 18 new trade deals. Whether it's the EU, the United Kingdom, Japan, Mexico, all of Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Thailand, etc. This is the foundation married to domestic supply. How about a year-round E15? Shout out, everybody. We're getting there, John Oven. 45Z, etc. Marrying that expanded domestic supply with all of these new trade deals around the world. We've taken what was a $50 billion agricultural trade deficit 1 year ago, and we have cut that in half in 1 year. Our corn exports are up 29%. Our ethanol exports are up 11%. Our tree nut exports are up 11%, and there is more good news coming. Last year, understanding that we aren't going to get there overnight, that we do need to make sure that the most American of Americans, our farmers and ranchers, have what they need in the context of national security to ensure that these farmers can keep ranching, our ranchers can keep ranching, that we don't lose any more. We've lost 150,000 farms and ranches in the last decade or so. We have to stop that trend. And so whether it was the Farmer Bridge Assistance, whether it was the Emergency Economic Assistance, whether it was the Livestock Disaster Assistance, all of the programs that were moved out at the quickest speed in the history of USDA, we will not forget that those bridge assistance programs are so very important. But every farmer and every rancher I've ever talked to said, we don't want to farm for government checks. We want a farm to be able to sell our product. The righteousness and the dignity of the work should be enough. And so ultimately, the vision, of course, is to off-ramp. But in the meantime, working so hard to get those payments out. Just a few weeks ago, we announced our One Farmer, One File. Making sure that before we leave in 3 more years, that every producer in America that participates in our USDA programs, and there's quite a few of them, that they can do it in the easiest, simplest way with one time, rather than having to move across all of the different agency projects. Within that first One Farmer, One File announcement, we launched the Farmer Bridge Assistance as the first piece of that to see how it would work. And in the first 4 days of launching Farmer Bridge Assistance payments married to our One Farmer, One File, we saw 50 times more producers sign up online than we did in ECAP over the 5 months of last year. Are taking it to the farmers and making sure they have what they need. Adoption is up over 5,000%. And of course, this is at a time where the president has asked all of us in the administration to do things more efficiently, to move them out more quickly. And while we were building One Farmer, One File, a big shout out to Sam and our IT team here. We had over 1,000 contractors spending more than $1 billion in FPAC alone. And now we have completely redirected all of that funding and all of that money and gotten rid of all of that outside bureaucracy. I just couldn't be more proud of that IT team, and we thank you for that. We've all had big round of applause. I'm sure they're here somewhere. We're lowering the cost of business for our farmers through a new adverse effect wage rate rule for H2A. We understand that labor and the labor needs of our agriculture community continue to be paramount, especially in certain areas of agriculture. We will continue to work alongside you to get what you need. Our friends on the Hill are working on that round the clock. But just that one rule change last year in H2A will save our farmers $2 billion a year by changing that one rule. Lower labor costs. For my Texas farmers, I'll never forget, I went down and visited the Schuster farm, the Rio Grande Fresh Farm in South Texas, and we stood at the border. And Courtney Schuster, an amazing farmer, a great Texas Aggie, she showed me where she was planting right next to the border wall, but what she had to pay under the current Biden H2A, all in with housing and transportation and all the things, was close to $30 to $35 an hour versus the workers across the border with the farmers on the other side in Mexico were paying $2 an hour for the exact same labor. There's obviously a medium in there somewhere, and that's what we're working to move toward. But ensuring that we cut that labor weight under the H-2A by 40% has been, I think, one of the most important things we've done in the last year. I also want to mention the One Big Beautiful Bill, and Chairman John Hoeven is here. Welcome, big round of applause. His leadership has been really important. I know you represent a lot of your friends on the Hill, John, but I specifically remember a little lunch that we had last March as the One Big Beautiful Bill, the reconciliation process began. And he and Senator Bozeman and I had a conversation. What if we could, perhaps, this may be a crazy idea, but since no farm bill was passed under the last administration, since the reference prices were more than a decade old, since so many of our farmers were facing uncertain, perilous times, what if we could move a lot of the gist of the Farm Bill into the reconciliation, the One Big Beautiful Bill? We didn't know if it was possible, but thanks to President Trump's leadership, thanks to the leadership of those on the Hill, especially this man sitting behind me, and thanks to so many of you, we were able to move so much of what the farmers and ranchers had been needing into the One Big Beautiful Bill. Not only raising reference prices, not only updating critical farm programs, not only making the death tax exemption permanent, which I heard from so many farmers across the country, but also raising it to limit and indexing it for inflation. Not only all of that, but just the tax cuts so that our farmers and ranchers and small business owners can keep more of the money that they make. These permanent tax tools for our farmers, including 100% immediate expensing and small business expensing, which was doubled. These were key, important changes that were made, again, thanks to the leadership of this administration and our leaders on the Hill that have shown what putting agriculture and farmers and ranchers first really look like. And when we do that, and understanding that if we want to pass on freedom to the next generation, and if we want our children and our grandchildren to understand what liberty and freedom looks like, that farm security is national security. If we're not able to preserve this way of life, if we're not able to ensure that we are feeding ourselves, if we're not able to have stop any reliance on foreign-owned companies and Chinese-owned farmland, and the list goes on, then America that we know it here at our 250th birthday will no longer exist in the way that our founders envisioned, and what everyone in this room is working toward and fighting for to preserve the great American experiment. That is how existential I believe this work at USDA is, in partnership with so many wonderful people across our cabinet and across America. We just couldn't be more grateful. So that takes me to the announcement today, again, putting America first, putting American ranchers and farmers first. From protecting private property rights and ending lawfare against our farmers to our commitment to making America healthy again, Bobby Kennedy. He'll talk a little bit about how important that is to our farmers. From expanding markets even more, not only abroad, but here at home, as I mentioned, to the Trump administration's massive deregulation effort. I remember when I thought getting rid of 2 old regulations for 1 new one seemed like a huge moonshot, and now today it's 129 old regulations out the door across the administration for every 1 new one that's coming in. All of our work is beginning to pay off. We're making real progress. We have a lot more to do, but we are making real progress, but we aren't letting up. And that's what makes today's announcement, our product of the USA, so exciting. Cue the video.
It means a standard. An American standard.
It means it was born here, raised here, processed here.
It means the healthiest food for a healthier future.
If you're going to use the American flag,
It better be American.
From start to finish, supporting American farmers, ranchers,
And producers. This is what America looks like.
Built on grit, backed by the people who live it.
From generation.
There's no faking the standard, Doug, when you see this label.
It means exactly what it says.
Born here,
raised here,
Processed here.
from the land of the free.
product of USA.
To that end, our Product of the USA rule that governs the labeling of our meat, poultry, and egg producers is in effect. But what does it mean? And now we launch into the massive outreach phase. It means for meat and poultry products to boast that they are, in fact, a product of the USA. The animals now have to have been entirely born, raised, harvested, and processed here in this country, which is a change. It all has to happen in this country. Not some of it, not part of it here, and then it goes somewhere else, and then it comes back, but every bit of it. And that's what the label that you see is all about. No shortcuts, no exceptions, and no confusion. No more foreign beef being deceptively passed off as America's best. It ends today. This new label is about enhancing competitiveness for our producers, our great American producers, by leveling the playing field and increasing transparency through truthful labeling. Because what our ranchers raise in this country is the very best in the entire world. It is why, as we're opening up these markets in the UK and Australia and others, more countries want our beef. But also on the flip side, it's about doing right by our consumers in this country, by clearing up all confusion about what made in the USA actually means. Consumers deserve clear, truthful labels. American ranchers deserve a level playing field, and that's what we are delivering. But in order to deliver, people need to know about this, which is why we are thrilled today to announce a new public awareness campaign that is sure to go viral, and we have a lot of people in the room who are going to help us do that, entirely focused on supporting American meat, poultry, and egg products that truly are a product of the USA. And to tell that story, as you saw in the video, we didn't go to actors. We went to the real deal. World rodeo champions like Rocker Steiner and Riley Webb and Cassie Mowry and Peyton Bray and Cooper James, men and women who live the Western way of life every single day. Just a few weeks ago, you probably all saw, we were all in the Oval Office with the president. The president had 15 minutes on his schedule to do a very quick meet and greet with these NFR rodeo champions. And about an hour and a half later, we were all walking up to the residence for him to show them the Lincoln bedroom. This president's heart and dedication and passion to our Western way of life and to those who represent it is real. Today marks the starting of an exciting new era for ag products made entirely here in America, and we just couldn't be more excited about that. Speaking of a new era for American products, for homegrown, locally produced products that will